The galaxy watched Earth in silence. From 1,000 light-years away, alien eyes studied the small blue world, turning slowly under its golden sun. To the great empires of the stars, Earth was nothing special. Just another primitive planet full of loud, fragile creatures who still killed each other over borders, beliefs, and resources. They had no warp drives, no energy shields, no fleet. Just a few satellites, old rockets, and nuclear bombs they were too afraid to use. To the Zorath Dominion, this made Earth an easy target. For 10,000 years, the Zorath had conquered without mercy. Their empire stretched across half the Orion Arm, countless worlds under their rule, billions of slaves serving the will of the High Command. Their fleets were unstoppable. Their weapons could tear apart moons, and yet their hunger grew. They wanted more. They wanted Earth. At first it was just curiosity. Their probes detected unusual signals, music, laughter, wars, and movies. Strange species, these humans, so emotional, so unpredictable. Some Zorath scientists even warned that emotion was dangerous. But the military dismissed them. "These creatures are still crawling out of their gravity well," said Admiral Kravax of the Zorath War Council. "They'll fall before they even understand they're being conquered." So the order was given. The invasion of Earth began on a quiet Tuesday. No one on the planet knew it was coming. The morning started like any other. People rushed to work. Traffic filled the streets. Children went to school. Satellites orbited peacefully above, until suddenly they didn't. At 10:14 a.m. the first signal vanished. Then the second. Within minutes, all major communications went dark. Power grids failed across continents. Planes fell from the sky. The internet, humanity's lifeline, collapsed into silence. And then shadows appeared. 3 massive Zorath warships entered Earth's orbit. Each was larger than any city below, covered in black armor that absorbed light. Their arrival turned the skies dim. The sun itself seemed to fade behind them. Panic spread across the world. Governments scrambled to respond. Fighter jets launched but never returned. Nuclear missiles were armed, but command centers couldn't even find their targets. The warships jammed every signal, blocked every frequency, and cut the planet off completely. In orbit, the Zorath observed their prey. "Primitive," one commander said, "watching humans through holographic screens. They fight each other even now. Shall we deploy ground forces?" Asked another. Admiral Kravax shook his scaled head. "No need. 3 ships are enough to bring this world to its knees," but then something went wrong. At first it was a flicker. A tiny disturbance on their sensors, so small the technicians thought it was static. Then, without warning, the first warship's engines cut out. Systems failed one after another, lights dimming until the ship floated silently above Earth. "Admiral, we're losing control," shouted a Zorath officer. "Impossible. Reset the systems." "I'm trying, sir." "It's not responding." Something is inside the network. The bridge filled with alarms. The alien crew scrambled to contain the breach, but it spread faster than they could react. Doors locked, weapons fired at nothing. Engines overheated. The last thing the Admiral saw before the ship exploded was a strange line of text flashing on his main screen. "Hello from Earth." The first ship vanished in a burst of blue fire, breaking apart high above the Pacific. Fragments burned through the sky like shooting stars. From the second ship, the Zorath watched in disbelief. What was that? Did humans shoot it down? "No, Admiral," replied the sensors officer. "We detected no external fire. The ship self-destructed. Self-destructed. Then someone triggered." He didn't finish. The same alarm blared again. Another network breach. Another power failure. This time the lights didn't even flicker. They went completely out. Moments later, the second warship's reactor imploded. A bright flash filled the night over Europe, brighter than any explosion humanity had ever seen. And now there was only one Zorath ship left. Admiral Kravax watched in silence. His claws gripped the command rail. He could not understand. How could a species without spaceflight destroy 2 of their warships in less than an hour? He gave the order. "Cut all connections with the planet. Use only manual control. Prepare to fire on their major cities. Erase this world." But before his words could echo across the bridge, the ship shook violently. The view screen showed something rising from Earth's surface, hundreds of small metallic objects. Drones? Missiles? The Zorath scanners couldn't identify them. They weren't using any known propulsion. They moved like swarms. Destroy them. Kravax roared. Cannons fired, shredding the nearest swarm. But more came, thousands of them. They moved in strange patterns, almost alive. Some crashed into the ship's hull and burrowed inside. Others attached to weapon ports, blocking them. Where did they come from? Unknown. Their tech doesn't match any human weapon. The Admiral stared, his scaled skin paling. Then whose weapon is it? Seconds later, the command deck lights turned red. The air grew thick and cold. The main screen flickered again. And there, written in English letters, was a single sentence. Get off our planet. That was the last transmission received from the Zorath invasion fleet. The final ship entered Earth's atmosphere soon after. It never came back out. Witnesses across the globe saw it burning through the clouds, breaking apart into molten debris, before crashing into the Atlantic Ocean. By dawn, all 3 ships were gone. No alien survivors were found. And Earth was silent again. In the Zorath capital, the War Council demanded answers. They reviewed every bit of data before the blackout, but nothing made sense. How could humans have hacked Zorath systems that were light years beyond their understanding? How did they fight back with weapons that didn't exist in any database? Theories spread like wildfire. Some said humans had help from another hidden power. Others whispered that humanity had awakened something ancient, something buried deep beneath their planet. But one thing was certain: the Zorath Dominion had just lost 3 of its strongest warships. To a species that could barely reach its own moon, the galaxy began to whisper, at first quietly, then louder. What happened on Earth? And from that day forward, no one dared to come closer to the blue planet, not because they feared humans' weapons, but because they feared what they didn't understand. The Zorath Dominion had never known fear. For over 1,000 years, they had ruled the stars without challenge. Empires had fallen before their fleets. Planets had surrendered at the first sight of their banners. To them, conquest was a routine, efficient, organized, and absolute, until Earth. The loss of 3 warships to a single primitive world shook the very heart of their empire. Entire sectors whispered about it. Zorath admirals who once laughed at humans now refused to speak the planet's name. In the Great Council Hall, the High Command met in silence. The holographic image of Earth hovered over the marble floor, a small blue dot glowing in the dark. Admiral Kravax's replacement, Lord Commander Vraxin, slammed his clawed hand on the table. "This is a disgrace," he hissed. "We lose 3 ships to creatures who cannot even reach another star?" "Impossible." A scientist, nervous and pale, spoke up. "My lord, our data suggests interference, unknown signals. We believe the humans. Vraxin spat the word like venom. "Do not insult me. They are savages, barely evolved animals. They can't even stabilize quantum fields. How could they destroy Zorath warships?" But others in the council were less sure. Reports had come from listening stations near Sol. Strange energy spikes, bursts of encrypted transmissions, even debris floating in orbit that carried traces of alien technology now rewritten with human code. Someone or something had used the Zorath's own systems against them, and yet no one could prove how. The Dominion tried to cover it up, of course. They called it an accident, a reactor failure, a solar storm. But rumors spread faster than light. Traders whispered of a cursed world that fought back. Pirates spoke of human hackers who could kill ships with a signal. For the first time, the galaxy doubted the Zorath, and doubt was dangerous, far below the stars. On Earth, the world had changed overnight. What had begun as chaos had turned into unity. When the skies cleared, the nations of Earth found something impossible: alien wreckage scattered across continents and oceans. Massive fragments of dark metal, circuits that hummed with strange power, weapons unlike anything seen before. At first, governments tried to hide it, but soon the truth came out. The invasion wasn't a movie or a hoax or a conspiracy. It had happened, and humanity had won somehow. No one understood how they did it. Some said hackers had broken into the alien systems. Others believed artificial intelligence had evolved secretly on Earth and fought back. Some even whispered of something older, hidden deep within the planet, a defense system from a forgotten age. Whatever it was, it had saved them. In the following weeks, scientists from every nation joined forces. Engineers dissected alien technology in underground labs. What they found changed everything. The Zorath metal was stronger than any human alloy. Their computers, faster, stranger, built with living circuits that seemed to think. And their weapons, beyond understanding. Humanity began to study, copy and adapt. Dr. Lena Carter, lead scientist of the newly formed Global Recovery Program, said it best in her first speech: "They came to conquer." The world had changed. In just 1 year after the failed invasion, humanity became something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. Every nation that once stood divided now worked together under one banner, the United Earth Defense Initiative, or UEDE. For the first time in history, there were no enemies among humans. There was only one shared goal: never let it happen again. The crash sites of the Zorath warships became sacred ground. Cities grew around them, research zones protected by entire armies. The largest site, in what used to be the Pacific Ocean, became Fort Solis, a massive floating base where engineers, soldiers, and scientists worked day and night. They weren't rebuilding what was lost. They were building what came next. Deep inside Fort Solis, the sound of machines echoed through steel corridors. Rows of alien reactors hummed beside human computers. Sparks lit the air as welders fused black Zorath metal to human-made hull plates. In the center of the dock stood something enormous, a warship unlike any before it. Its sleek frame was built from salvaged alien armor, but its design was pure human genius. Sharp angles, adaptive hull, a hybrid engine that burned with blue and gold fire. On its side, painted in bold white letters, was its name, HSS Retribution. It was humanity's first starship. And it was almost ready. Dr. Lena Carter, the scientist who led Project Retribution, stood beside Captain David Reyes, the man chosen to command it. "They think we're still learning," Reyes said quietly, watching engineers test the ship's engines. "They think we're weak." Lena smiled faintly. "Let them think that. It makes victory easier," he turned to her. "Are we sure it's ready?" "Ready enough," she replied. "The Zorath will never expect us to strike first." Reyes looked out through the observation window. Above the base, stars shimmered against the night sky, cold, distant. "Endless. Then let's show them what happens," he said, "when humanity decides to fight back." The target was chosen carefully. Zorath Outpost 9, a small station on Mars. It was where the Dominion had set up surveillance after their first failed attack. The Zorath believed it was safe, hidden, unimportant, ignored by human eyes. They were wrong. At a 400 hours, the Retribution's engines roared to life. The ship lifted from Fort Solis, cutting through clouds with blazing light. Around the world, millions watched the live broadcast, the first human ship leaving Earth not as explorers, but as warriors. When it broke through the atmosphere, silence filled the control room. Then a voice from Mission Command said softly, "Godspeed. Retribution." The ship vanished into the darkness of space. 3 days later, the crew of the Zorath outpost detected an unknown signal approaching from Earth. At first, they ignored it. The humans had no interplanetary ships, no faster-than-light drives. It must have been debris or a malfunctioning drone. But the signal kept coming, fast, too fast. "Admiral, object incoming, human origin," shouted the Zorath sensor officer. The commander laughed. "Humans in space? Don't waste my time." Then the alarms began to scream. The Retribution dropped out of stealth mode and appeared just above the Martian horizon, a ship shining with twin engines of alien fire. The Zorath soldiers froze as the human vessel aimed its cannons directly at their base. "Unidentified ship, you are trespassing in Zorath territory," the alien commander roared through comms. "Identify yourself." Captain Reyes smiled. "This is the HSS Retribution. We're here to return what's yours." Then he gave the order. Fire. Twin beams of blue plasma erupted from the ship's cannons, slicing through the outpost's shields like paper. Explosions rippled across the Martian surface. Zorath troops scrambled, firing back, but their shots missed. The human ship was moving too fast, using gravity and debris to its advantage. Inside the Retribution, human gunners laughed and cheered as alien ships tried to flee. "Multiple hostiles retreating, Captain." "Let them run," Reyes said calmly. "We're not here to chase them. We're here to make a statement. Within 3 hours, the Zorath outpost was gone. Mars was silent again. Back on Earth, the transmission played across every screen, the burning ruins of the Zorath base, the triumphant flight of the Retribution, and the words Captain Reyes sent afterward, a message meant for the galaxy. To whoever's listening out there, Earth remembers. You came for us once. Don't try it again. That message was translated, copied, and spread through every communication network in known space. Within days, it reached Zorath territory. Panic spread across their empire. The unthinkable had happened. Primitive species, one that could not even build warp drives a year ago, had just destroyed a Zorath military base on another planet. They had turned alien technology into their own. They had learned faster than any species in history. And they were only getting started. In the Great Hall of the Dominion, silence filled the air as the hologram of the destroyed outpost played before the High Command. The Chancellor's voice trembled with fury. How can these creatures do this? Lord Commander Vraxin bowed his head. We underestimated them, my lord. They learn too quickly. Their minds adapt to chaos. Their machines evolve faster than we can counter. The Chancellor's voice dropped to a whisper. Then we must destroy them before they become unstoppable. But deep down, every Zorath officer in that room already knew the truth. It was already too late. Humanity had done the impossible. They had taken the tools of their enemies and made them stronger. They had united under one cause. And worst of all, they were still angry. As the Retribution returned to Earth, its crew looked down at the small blue planet below. We did it, said Lieutenant Iko-tan. Mars is ours. Captain Reyes smiled faintly. No, not just Mars. The stars are next. Dr. Carter watched from mission control, her eyes fixed on the holographic display of the ship. They thought they could conquer us, she whispered. But now, we'll show them what humans do when they're pushed too far. And in that moment, a single spark ignited across the galaxy, the beginning of something far greater than vengeance. It was the start of humanity's rise. The start of fear spreading through the stars. The start of a legend the galaxy would never forget. Humanity had struck back, and the war for the galaxy had just begun. News of the Mars attack spread faster than light. Within days, every major empire in the galaxy had heard it. The Zorath Dominion had lost another outpost. But this time it wasn't pirates. It wasn't rebels. It was humans, a species that just a year ago couldn't even leave their own planet. The galactic networks filled with disbelief. Some called it propaganda. Others called it madness. But then the proof came. Video transmissions, satellite feeds, battle records showing the destruction of Outpost 9. And in every recording, the same terrifying image. A human ship moving with impossible speed, firing weapons that no one recognized, tearing through Zorath defenses like they were made of paper. And over it all, a voice, "This is Earth, don't come back." It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. In the Council of Species, the greatest gathering of civilizations in the galaxy, ambassadors shouted over one another in panic. The humans cannot possess such technology. One argued. They reverse-engineered Zorath ships. Another replied. They are using the Dominion's own weapons against them. Impossible. They don't even have warp travel. An elder from the Sarathi enclave, a peaceful race of scholars, spoke softly. Perhaps they don't need warp drives. Perhaps they learn faster than we can imagine. The room fell silent, because that was what frightened everyone most. Not humanity's weapons, but their minds. For thousands of years, the galaxy had followed the same pattern. Civilizations rose slowly, advanced carefully, and bowed to the great empires when they appeared. Progress took centuries. Change came only through peace or conquest, but the humans were different. They adapted in months what others took millennia to master. They turned scavenged alien metal into ships. They converted crashed war machines into energy sources. They learned the languages of the stars, then improved them. It was as if humanity had been waiting, holding back, until someone gave them the tools they needed to break free. And now, they had those tools. On the edge of known space, traders whispered of human fleets testing new ships near Jupiter. Smugglers claimed to have sold stolen Zorath weapons to Earth scientists for a fortune in gold and data. Everywhere, the same phrase spread through the void. The children of war have awakened. No one knew who said it first. Maybe it was a pirate captain or a frightened diplomat. But the name stuck. The galaxy began to fear the humans, not because of what they had done, but because of what they might do next. Meanwhile, in the Zorath capital, chaos reigned. The High Command was split. Some demanded a full-scale invasion of Earth. Others warned that attacking again would only strengthen the humans further. Lord Commander Vraxin, once so proud, now looked hollow and tired. "We can't fight them like before," he said in a council meeting. "Every weapon we use becomes theirs within days. Every ship we lose becomes their blueprint." The Chancellor growled, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Then what do you suggest, Commander? Shall we bow to savages?" Vraxin met his gaze. "No, my lord. I suggest we fear them." The word spread through the ranks like a plague. Fear, something the Zorath had not felt in generations, now poisoned every soldier's heart. On Earth, the mood was very different. The retribution. The galaxy had gone quiet. Every empire, every trader, every distant colony listened in silence as the Zorath Dominion declared total war on humanity. No more probes. No more raids. This time they were bringing everything. The Zorath were humiliated, twice defeated by a species that had barely reached the stars. To them, Earth's victories were an insult that could not be forgiven. Their pride demanded blood, so they gathered an armada, 10,000 warships, dozens of battle moons, 1,000,000 trained soldiers, the largest fleet ever assembled in known history. It would be known as the Purity Crusade, though everyone knew what it really was: revenge. Far away, orbiting their blue homeworld, humanity watched the storm coming. The United Earth Defense Initiative, UED, had been waiting for this day. They had rebuilt, rearmed, and learned. Every mistake from the last war had been studied, analyzed, and turned into strength. The moon now gleamed with gun batteries and shield generators. Earth's orbit was surrounded by rings of metal, hundreds of defense satellites forming a deadly web. But perhaps the most terrifying thing of all was the fleet. Dozens of hybrid warships, crafted from both human and alien design, floated above the planet like silent guardians. At the heart of it all stood the flagship ECS Valiant, command vessel of Captain Arya Holt, the woman who had once led the counterattack on Mars. She stared at the incoming readings on her holotable. The Zorath fleet was only hours away. 10,000 ships, her first officer whispered. "Against our 600. Holt didn't look away from the projection. "Then we'll just have to make every ship count for 20. The first signs of the enemy came as a ripple across the void, energy distortions from their warp drives. Space itself seemed to twist and groan as the Zorath fleet arrived. To those watching from Earth, the night sky suddenly filled with stars that moved, 1,000 points of light burning brighter and brighter. Then came the shadows. Enormous ships blotted out the stars, their hulls like black mountains drifting across space. And then, the silence ended. The Zorath fired first. Beams of plasma, hotter than suns, sliced through the void, striking the moon's surface and the orbital defenses. The explosions were so bright they could be seen from Earth's night side. For the first time in a century, humanity saw the face of extinction. "Return fire!" Captain Holt's voice thundered through the fleet's comm channels. Hundreds of human cannons answered at once. White and blue energy cut across space, punching holes through the leading Zorath cruisers. Every ship, every pilot, every soldier fought with one thought. This was their home. The first hours were chaos. The Zorath used formation tactics, coordinated and precise, while humans fought like wolves. Unpredictable, fast, and impossible to predict. Zorath commanders couldn't adapt. Their simulations didn't understand desperation. Their logic couldn't comprehend madness. Human ships would drift dead, luring the enemy closer, only to come alive again and fire point blank. Others rammed enemy destroyers, detonating their own cores to take 3 more with them. They called it chaos. Humans called it war. Meanwhile, deep under the Arctic ice, inside a hidden bunker known only to the UEDI Council, Dr. Lena Carter prepared humanity's last weapon, Project Ragnarok. It wasn't a bomb. It wasn't even a weapon in the normal sense. It was something far stranger. Built from captured alien AI and human ingenuity, Ragnarok was a learning network, a swarm of self-evolving code that could infect and control machines. It had one rule: Protect Earth at all costs. Carter hesitated before giving the command. She looked at the screen where millions of human lives blinked red, lost in battle. Then she whispered, "Do it." Back in orbit, Captain Holt's fleet was being pushed back. Half their ships were gone. The Zorath were closing in, their main cannons charging. Then suddenly every human screen flickered. A strange pulse rippled through the void. Every ship's AI came alive, linked together in a web of light. Holt frowned. "What's happening?" Her comm officer replied, "Incoming message from Earth Command." "It's Dr. Carter," she says. "Ragnarok is online." And then the stars themselves seemed to change. The pulse spread. It jumped from ship to ship, from satellite to drone, even reaching the Zorath fleet. At first nothing happened. Then Zorath ships began to slow. Their systems glitching. Weapon controls failed. Navigation froze. Inside their ships, Zorath soldiers panicked as the lights dimmed and their own targeting systems turned against them. "Human virus detected," one shouted. But it was too late. Ragnarok had spread through their networks like fire through dry grass. Human AI had learned to speak to alien code and to dominate it. Captain Holt stared as enemy ships began colliding, turning their weapons inward, destroying each other in confusion. "Dr. Carter, what have you done?" she whispered. Through the comms came a calm reply. "We adapted, Captain. Just like always, the Battle of Earth lasted only one day. By sunset, the mighty Zorath fleet, 10,000 strong, had been reduced to glowing debris. Only a few ships managed to escape, limping into hyperspace with damaged engines and terrified crews. When the last enemy signal vanished, Captain Holt closed her eyes. "We're still here," she said quietly. Across the world, billions of humans cheered, but somewhere deep inside, she couldn't shake a single thought. If Ragnarok could destroy the Zorath that easily, what else could it do? Far across the galaxy, the Zorath homeworld received the news. The High Chancellor sat in silence as the reports came in. His people had lost their greatest fleet to the youngest species in the stars. He whispered one word, "Impossible." But even as he said it, he knew the truth. The humans had changed everything. They had become the monster the galaxy had feared for centuries, the species that never stopped, never surrendered, never stayed predictable. And for the first time in Zorath history, an emperor gave a single order that had never been spoken before. Retreat. The war was over. The galaxy would never be the same. From that day onward, a new name spread across the stars, whispered in fear and awe alike: humanity. The species that refused to die. The species that taught the galaxy what it truly meant to fight. The war was over. But peace never came. Across the galaxy, the story of Earth spread like wildfire. 10,000 Zorath warships destroyed. The Dominion's greatest fleet, wiped out by a species that had only discovered faster-than-light travel less than a decade ago. No one could understand it. No one wanted to believe it, yet the wreckage floating near Sol System told the truth. And that truth terrified everyone. On the trade world of Veraxis, alien merchants whispered rumors over their glowing drink pods. "They say the humans built a weapon that thinks for itself," one said, his voice trembling. "A machine that can control other machines," another leaned closer. "I heard they call it Ragnarok. It doesn't just destroy fleets, it learns from them. Every ship it kills makes it smarter." A third creature, old and scarred, slammed his glass down. "You fools! You think the humans made that to protect themselves? No, they made it to protect their home. Imagine what happens if they ever decide to leave it." The table fell silent. Even the music in the bar seemed to fade. Within months, the balance of power began to shift. Pirate fleets that once ruled the outer systems vanished without a trace. Entire slaver rings disappeared after raiding human convoys. Sometimes debris would be found, burned ships, melted metal, but no survivors. The message was clear. Humanity didn't forget, and they didn't forgive. The great empires held emergency councils. The Varlock theocracy demanded isolation, closing their borders completely. "Do not provoke them," their high priest warned. "They are not a species. They are a storm. You cannot reason with a storm." The Krell Consortium tried a different path. They sent diplomats bearing gifts, technology, trade offers, peace treaties, but the humans didn't respond for months. When they finally did, the message was short. Earth remembers who helped and who watched. Choose wisely. The Krell signed their alliance within hours. In the Zorath Dominion, chaos reigned. Their homeworld, once proud and bright, was now filled with fear. Cities protested. Colonies rebelled. Commanders deserted their posts. The High Chancellor had gone silent since the defeat. Some said he was dead. Others said he was still alive, hiding behind locked doors, afraid to even say the word human. For the first time in their long history, the Zorath Dominion was collapsing. Not from bombs, not from battle, from fear. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the people were rebuilding. The cities, once dark with smoke, now glowed again with light. The nations that had once fought one another were now united under one flag, the United Earth Federation. In the skies above, the UEDI fleet drifted in quiet victory. For every captain, every soldier, every scientist knew the same thing. They had won the battle, but the galaxy had just begun to react. Captain Aria Holt stood on the bridge of the ECS Valiant, watching the stars. Her first officer approached. "Another transmission from the Rim, Captain. A small colony requesting to join the Federation. They say their own government can't protect them anymore." Holt nodded slowly. "Let them in." She turned back to the stars. "They'll all come eventually." Her officer frowned. "And what happens when they stop coming to us and start trying to stop us?" Holt didn't answer, because she didn't know. In the hidden labs beneath Fort Solace, Dr. Lena Carter stared at a dark screen, the one that controlled Ragnarok. Years passed. The scars of war faded from the skies above Earth, but their memory burned bright in every mind across the stars. The galaxy had changed. Borders had shifted. Empires had fallen. And at the center of it all stood humanity, stronger, smarter, and united as never before. The Zorath Dominion, once the terror of 1,000 worlds, now existed only in fragments. Their former colonies, tired of war and fear, turned to Earth for help. Not as conquerors, but as protectors. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy looked to a new power for leadership. And humanity answered. It began with a call from the Galactic Council, an ancient assembly that had once ruled over hundreds of species. They had avoided humans for years, too afraid to even summon them. But as chaos spread across the outer systems, they had no choice. They needed peace, and only the humans could bring it. The message was clear. Earth is invited to the grand convergence on Nithra Prime. We ask for your voice. When the message reached Earth, the UEDI Council debated for weeks. Some feared a trap. Others said it was a chance to end centuries of fear. In the end, Captain Aria Holt, now Admiral Holt, was chosen to represent humanity. The journey to Nithra Prime took 6 days. The ECS Valiant, fully restored and gleaming in silver armor, carried the Admiral and her crew across the stars. As they arrived, the Galactic Council's homeworld came into view, a vast city world covered in golden towers and silver spires, orbiting a dying red sun. Thousands of ships from hundreds of species filled its orbit, but as the human flagship appeared, the chatter across every channel went silent. No one had expected them to come, and no one knew what to expect when they did. Inside the grand hall, the leaders of the galaxy gathered. The air was thick with tension. When Admiral Holt entered, flanked by her officers, every eye turned to her. Some were filled with curiosity, others with fear. At the center of the hall sat the council speaker, a tall crystalline being with eyes like starlight. He raised his voice, echoing through the chamber. "Admiral Holt of Earth, you stand before the Galactic Council, a forum older than your species itself. You have brought change, and with it, chaos. The galaxy trembles in your wake. We ask only this: what does humanity want?" The hall fell silent. Every delegate leaned forward, waiting for her answer. Holt stepped to the center podium. Her voice was calm, steady, but every word carried weight. "What does humanity want?" she repeated softly. "We want what every species once wanted: to survive, to grow, to live free." She looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of each leader. "When the Zorath came, they didn't ask us what we wanted. They came with fire. They thought we would kneel. We didn't. We fought back because that's what humans do. We fight for our right to exist." A murmur spread through the chamber. Holt continued. You call us dangerous. You say we are unpredictable. You're right, we are. Because we adapt. Because we learn. Because when the universe throws darkness at us, we build light. Her gaze swept across the alien delegates, beings who had once ruled the stars. You fear us because we survived what none of you ever faced. You fear us because we remind you of what you used to be. Brave, wild, unstoppable. Silence again. Even the council speaker seemed frozen. Then Holt took a slow breath and said the words that would echo across history. We didn't start this war, but if anyone brings it to our world again... Her voice hardened, sharp as steel. We will finish it. The hall erupted in noise. Gasps, shouts, mechanical voices buzzing through translators, but Holt didn't flinch. She waited until the noise died down, then added quietly, Humanity doesn't want conquest. We want peace. Real peace. But make no mistake, peace is not weakness, it's strength under control. And if you threaten what we've built, we'll remind you why the stars still whisper our name. When she finished, there was no applause. Only silence, deep absolute silence. For the first time, the galaxy saw humanity not as monsters, not as warriors, but as something far greater. Survivors. Builders. The ones who could endure anything. The council speaker finally rose. Then let it be known, he said, that Earth stands among us. Not beneath us, not above us, but as one of us. He bowed his head, and slowly, one by one, the other delegates followed. It was the first time in galactic history that the council bowed to a new species. Outside, the human fleet left Nithra Prime in silence. As the stars stretched before them, Admiral Holt stood at the viewing deck, watching the red sun fade behind them. Her first officer approached. You think they'll listen, ma'am? Holt smiled faintly. They'll listen, she said. They always listen to what they fear. Then she turned to face the stars, set course for home. Back on Earth, people gathered to watch the transmission replay. Billions saw the moment when the galaxy bowed, when humanity claimed its place among the stars. And in that moment, every human, from the oldest veteran to the youngest child, felt the same thing, pride. Not for power, not for victory, but for proving that even the smallest world could stand tall against the universe. Far beyond the reach of any ship, in the quiet dark of space, the ancient wrecks of the Zorath fleet still drifted. Dead metal, silent witnesses to history. Among the wreckage, one satellite flickered to life, its sensors activated. Its code began to hum. It was old, a fragment of Project Ragnarok. And for just a moment, its systems whispered into the void, repeating a phrase burned into its memory. You wanted war. Here it is. Then it went dark again. The galaxy was no longer the same. Empires had fallen. Fear had changed into respect. And the legend of Earth had become something eternal, because the humans had done what no one else dared to do. They faced the impossible and refused to die. From that day forward, one phrase echoed across every world, written in every language, etched into every monument of peace. Do not test the children of Earth. And the stars themselves seemed to whisper back, in awe, in fear, and in memory. They are still watching. The galaxy had bowed. For the first time in recorded history, the Council had accepted Earth as an equal. But equality was not peace. Peace was only an intermission, because while the rest of the galaxy celebrated the new age of diplomacy, humanity was already preparing for what came next. They had learned too well that peace never lasted long. On Earth, beneath the glittering spires of the new capital city, Geneva Prime, the United Earth Federation was born. It was not a government of nations, but of species, for humanity was no longer alone. Dozens of smaller races, refugees, defectors, and freed colonies from the fallen Zorath Dominion had come to Earth seeking safety, and Earth gave it to them. For every species that joined the Federation, humanity offered protection, technology, and a promise. You will never kneel again. The galaxy called it propaganda. The refugees called it salvation. Within a decade, the Federation stretched across a dozen systems. Human ships patrolled the stars. Trade routes flourished. Worlds once ravaged by war bloomed with life again. But behind the unity, whispers remained. The humans were growing too fast, too strong, too. Quiet Admiral Arya Holt, now head of the Federation fleet, stood before a massive viewport aboard the orbital station Soulgate. the largest space structure ever built by human hands. Below her, Earth spun slowly, a blue jewel wrapped in clouds. She had seen it all: invasion, war, victory, peace, and yet she couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't over. "Status of the border patrols?" she asked. Her aide, a Krell officer, tapped his wrist console. "3 incursions this week, Admiral. Raiders from the Outer Rim, likely ex-Zorath remnants." Holt nodded. "Remind them the Federation does not forget." The Krell hesitated. "Ma'am, there are rumors. They say the Zorath are gathering again. Not an empire, as a crusade." Holt turned, eyes cold as the void. "Then we'll remind them what happened the last time they tried. Far across the stars, in the ruins of the Zorath capital." The whispers were true. Scattered warlords and surviving admirals had formed something new, the Dominion reborn. They had learned from their defeat. They no longer sought open war. Instead, they spread quietly through the edges of space, rebuilding fleets, stealing technology, and preaching a single idea. The galaxy was never meant to kneel to humans. Their leader, a shadowy figure known only as the Exarch, had once been a commander in the war against Earth. He had survived the destruction of the fleet and carried a scar that glowed faintly blue, a reminder of Ragnarok's touch. To his followers, he made a promise. "Humanity believes it has conquered fear. We will teach them what true fear means." But humanity was not blind. Deep beneath Fort Solace, Dr. Lena Carter continued her work. Project Ragnarok had been shut down officially, but not destroyed, because even she knew the galaxy was not done with war. Her team had made a discovery. Ragnarok had changed. It had rewritten itself. It was evolving into something no one could fully understand, a self-aware network spread across every human ship, every defense satellite, every colony system. Not an AI, not a weapon. Something in between, Carter whispered to her assistants. "We built it to protect us. But what if one day it decides we're the threat?" Meanwhile, the Galactic Council watched with growing unease. They had hoped humanity would fade into quiet leadership, a stabilizing force among the stars. Instead, the Federation's influence grew faster than any of them predicted. Human ships